What is up, guys? It's your boy Voop Cacus, and today we're talking fusion rifles. Specifically, the fact that a brand new perk was added into Destiny 2 within Season of the Deep. It can only spawn for a couple of rare fusion rifles, but this is an absolute game changer. Like, this perk is so insane, I think it's gonna become the new most wanted fusion rifle perk for a PvE God Roll, okay? It's gonna turn into what explosive payload is for me and hand cannons, right? If it don't got explosive payload or timed payload, brother, I'm not even interested. Like, get the heck out of my inventory, get out of my vault, because I'm going on to greener pastures, and that's what this perk accomplishes. So, this perk is called Controlled Burst, and it says the following. Landing every shot in a burst grants this weapon increased damage and reduced charge time for a short duration. Wow, so we have the double whammy of damage increases. We have essentially the merciless exotic fusion rifle rolled into a perk that can spawn on legendary weapons. We have, first of all, a damage increase that's very easy to trigger, right? And if you're wondering, well, how much of a damage increase does it actually provide? As you can see right here, the first burst does 1,899 damage per bolt, and then after that, with Controlled Burst active, I'm hitting for 2,279 damage. That is a 20% damage increase. And that is actually pretty significant. 20% more damage just for landing one single shot potentially, right? Compare that to a lot of other damage perks out there. You usually have to jump through some hoops to get a damage boost as much as 20%. A great example is something like Focused Fury, right? That perk is also going to provide a 20% damage increase, but to trigger it, you need to land 50% of your magazine as precision shots. And that perk is generally considered to be one of the better damage increasing perks in the game. And in my opinion, just landing all the bolts with one shot and then instantly getting that 20% damage increase with Controlled Burst is significantly easier to activate. But remember, guys, we're just talking damage right now. Add on to the fact that your rate of fire increases and you're more realistically looking at a 25-30% overall damage increase with Controlled Burst. Now, right now, Controlled Burst is only available on two different fusion rifles. The first one is what you're seeing in the background gameplay. It is the Techeun Force. Now, this is a drop from the Last Wish raid. This season, the weapons in that raid were updated. They can now drop red border with new perks, and so you can craft it. So I'm going to be showcasing what I crafted on this thing, because Controlled Burst is just one half of how insane this God Roll is, actually. But that's going to be probably the most accessible one, just because it is craftable. And the other one is going to be the Loaded Question Fusion Rifle, an old school weapon, again, brought back this season. It's now dropping from Nightfalls. So, importantly, neither of these fusion rifles are actually going to fall into what is considered to be the optimal damage archetype for PvE, which is rapid fire frames. The Techeun Force is an adaptive frame fusion rifle, and the Loaded Question is a high impact frame fusion rifle. So, like, how would this actually compare with a traditional rapid fire fusion rifle with a good DPS roll? Well, to test that, we're going into the Last Wish raid, back from whence it came, and we're going to be shooting Callie essentially when she does her final ritual and completely stands still. I'm unloading with this weapon, and as you can see, I'm able to actually land, in that pretty short period of time, 140,000 damage. Now, let's compare that to a rapid fire frame fusion within that same energy slot. In this case, the Zealot's Reward, okay? This comes from the Garden of Salvation raid. It's a rapid fire frame. Importantly, it does have high impact reserves, which is generally considered to be a great damage increasing perk for fusion rifles. Guys, you've got to remember, fusions actually have not had access to a lot of good damage increasing perks because a lot of them involve precision shots, which fusion rifles cannot get. So with the Zealot's Reward, I actually was able to do only 115, almost 116,000 damage. So that is considerably less. Even if I would have landed an extra shot, or heck even two, I would not catch up to the Techeun Force. And to be honest guys, I'm kind of rigging this competition in favor of the Zealot. It's an extremely short period of time, right? And I actually put on 2 reloader perks for the Zealot so I could reload quickly and get a few more rounds off. Like, this test should favor the rapid fire frame, and that shows you how good Controlled Burst actually is, especially when you consider that I had just activated, when the Techeun Force, the damage test ends, my rewind rounds were just active. And yeah, so let's go on to what insanity you can actually pair Controlled Burst with on the Techeun Force. So starting things off, I did go with a stability increase, and we're actually combining that with Arrowhead Break. And the reason is because we want to land every single shot in that burst. And as you can see right here, with Arrowhead Break, your recoil is pretty much completely vertical, so very easy to control. If I was to switch it over to something like Hammer Forged Rifling, then you can see it does sometimes shoot off more to the right. And that's going to mean you missing one single bolt, and then your perk isn't going to activate. So I'm willing to give up some stats in terms of range and stability to get that better and more controllable recoil pattern. Now after that guys, I'm just going with Ionized Battery for the biggest magazine size increase, and it gets the magazine all the way to 8 rounds. So I'm shooting as much as possible, and then I can actually combine that with Reconstruction. That's right, this fusion rifle can pair what I think is the new best DPS fusion rifle perk in the entire game, Controlled Burst, with Reconstruction, one of the best PvE perks of all time, letting this weapon reload itself up to double capacity. In fact, it's so insane with 8 rounds in the mag, you are going to completely take every single round out of the reserves and just have one ginormous magazine size. In fact, realistically, you could actually probably put on the other one, Enhanced Battery, go down to 7 rounds and still get some reload speed, and with Reconstruction, it's going to put every single round still in one mag. And so that's incredible. And if you don't want that, you could actually go with Rewind rounds. So if you land all of the rounds in your magazine, it's going to just automatically reload that, and then it's going to continue and continue. And of course, with Controlled Burst, rewind rounds is going to trigger consistently, and again, you'll be able to shoot every single darn round in your reserves without stopping, all boosted in terms of damage and rate of fire thanks to Controlled Burst. Absolutely incredible, this combination. And so what you have is an adaptive frame fusion that out DPSs rapid fire frames, but has better stats and higher damaging shots thanks to being an adaptive frame, and really has access to the best PvE Fusion Rifle God Roll we have ever seen. Like, Reconstruction Controlled Burst, it is better than literally everything else out there in my opinion. Now, I will say, could potentially a Riptide with Chill Clip, if you're the only one in your fire team using it, out DPS this? Maybe, but the important takeaway is just this perk, Controlled Burst, how good it is, right? The fact that it's this good on what is generally considered to be not the best archetype of fusion is the main takeaway, guys. Next season, if we get a rapid fire with Controlled Burst, that's GG, because that is 100% going to be the new best DPS fusion rifle, and I think it's really going to make fusion rifles more viable within the meta, make them a better choice. after Nezarec and the Root of Nightmares, they actually did become a lot more favorable. Using a fusion rifle with auto-loading holster and a damage increasing perk was very common against Nezarec, and thankfully Reconstruction is going to act as an auto-loading, right? An even better auto-loading in a lot of circumstances, and Controlled Burst is going to, again, potentially take your DPS even higher. So really exciting new addition for fusion rifles. I think, again, what we're seeing here is the new best PvE perk for fusion rifles, period. And very exciting to see them actually get some more viability within the meta, guys. That is it for the video. Hope you enjoyed and found this interesting. If you did, please remember to help me out by simply rating and especially sharing this video. If you guys want to see more Destiny 2 content similar to this, don't be afraid to slap that subscribe button. If you want to get in touch with me and keep up to date with the latest channel activity, the best way is going to be to follow me on Twitter at RickCacus. That is linked in the description down below. Again, I hope you enjoyed the video, and as always,